Alright, believe me, I know exactly what you're thinking. You read the title of that video just now, and the first thought that probably popped into your mind was, what the actual foolishness is this guy talking about? He can't be serious, right? Nope. Nope, it's not a joke. No, I'm not delusional. No, I'm not crazy. No, I'm not a fanboy. I'm just a very, very satisfied gamer. I'm sure the majority of us, we went ahead and we watched E3 2014, and it was a pretty good display overall from almost everybody. Almost everybody. EA. Almost everybody. But, as we know, out of the 5 presentations, only one can truly be called, the most entertaining, the most exciting, overall, the best, the king. And I think that this year, surprisingly, it was a surprise to, I think, almost everybody. This year, that title goes to Nintendo. It is as archaic, as asinine, as completely insane as anyone could have ever bothered to think. But it's the truth. Nintendo won E3 2014 with their Nintendo Digital Event presentation. The things that they did at this year's E3, their presentation, the Treehouse stream, the Smash Brothers tournament, everything that they did, it helped them win. And they won, with flying colors. They did an absolute marvelous job. And I watched all of the presentations, I watched all 5, and I can definitely say that Nintendo was the one that entertained me the most. And it seemed like they were, set, they came to fight, they came to conquer, really. Because everybody went on day 1. The first day of E3, it started with Microsoft, it ended with Sony, and in between was EA and Ubisoft respectively, so it went in that order. So by the time day 2 came around, nobody was left, everyone was out on the show floor, except for Nintendo. Nintendo took the very first slot of the day, at the very beginning of the day, they started off their events. So they had the entire day to themselves, they had the entire day to prove exactly what they were made of. And they basically had the second most important slot, because Microsoft, they have to make the show exciting, because since they went first, so they did a good job at getting everyone excited for the show. And now Nintendo was the one who needed to bring it home. They either could have ended it on a sour note, on a average note, or on an amazing note, and they definitely ended it on an amazing note. This was probably the best E3 presentation that they've had in a long time. I'm talking about 3 to 4 in the last maybe 3 to 4 years. This has probably been the best E3 presentation that they've had, and I don't think anybody, probably even Nintendo themselves, didn't think that the media and the internet in general would pay so much attention to this and to actually, be this involved. They were the most talked about presentation on Twitter. They accounted for, I think, about 35% of the E3 2014 gaming discussion, and while Sony was about 25%, and I think Microsoft was about 22 or 20%. So they made up the biggest percentage once again, which was insane, considering how everybody thought that Sony was going to come and win it. But instead, out of the big 3, Sony had the weakest presentation. They may have had the longest, but theirs definitely wasn't the best. So if I had to rank, if it was up to me to rank them all, I would definitely put Nintendo at first place. Microsoft comes in at a pretty strong second, Sony a distant third. Ubisoft scores the 4th position, but EA is just, I don't even want to include EA in this, I just want to give a X, and then put EA next to it, because EA's own was just terrible. It was boring, it was just terrible. But definitely, Nintendo, they won. And they won with good reason. And there was a lot of doubt surrounding exactly how it would turn out, because this all started from last year, when they decided to not have their traditional press conference for the very first time. They decided to use the Nintendo Direct platform instead to deliver news to their fans. And when they made that move, everybody was just pointing fingers, everybody was laughing, everybody started throwing more names. You know, they were insulting Nintendo left, right, front, center. They thought that it was a cowardly move, that it was a stupid move, that it wouldn't work out. And even though that Nintendo Direct wasn't too bad, it wasn't as amazing as it could have been. I definitely have to say that. It was not as good as it could have been. Sony last year definitely conquered. They did an amazing job with their presentation last year. Microsoft own was oh boy, I don't really have I don't have a word to call what Microsoft did last year other than pure gamer rage making. You know, gamer rage making is what they were basically doing last year, because when they were displaying their Xbox One last year's E3, it was everything they did. Sony just went ahead and slapped them with, which was the funniest thing to see. Then Nintendo was just off to the corner, you know, and basically in their own category. It was between Sony and Microsoft, and that's exactly how everybody thought it was going to be this year, that Nintendo wouldn't even be a whisper amongst people, that they would get drowned out. And I'm pretty sure Nintendo knew that this would happen, because let's face it, ever since, you know, the 7th generation started to wind down and news about the 8th generation started to build up, Sony and Microsoft have always been the top of conversation between gamers and between gaming websites in general, as well as developers. Nintendo realizes that they aren't as big in the discussion table in the gaming world as much as they used to. They knew that, you know, these gaming websites like IGN, Polygon, Game Reaction, you know, just to name a few, they know that they don't give a fair share of coverage to them as they do to Sony and Microsoft. So what they did was, for this year and for last year and definitely this year, they said, you know what, let's give people our news directly to them. Let's take the news to them. Let's not rely on these gaming websites for their interviews, for their insider information. Let's cut them out completely and let's just do everything ourselves. And that's basically what they did. With their digital event, you know, they had developers come and talk about the new games that they were introducing. They displayed their games marvelously, you know, one after the other. There was no awkward moments, there was no game glitches, there was no unnecessary smiling and unnecessary pausing. You know, there was no awkward moments throughout this entire presentation. It was just 47 minutes of pure gaming goodness. So the digital event was marvelously done from beginning to end. The beginning was just downright funny. That battle between Iwata and Reggie on Smash Brothers, introducing the new characters, it was funny. It was nice, really well done. And to end it all, it was good. And they said they wanted to do something more than that. They didn't just want to show their games, they wanted to explain their games. So right after the event, for the next few days of E3, straight up until the end, they were doing live streams with the Nintendo Treehouse crew. They had the game developers come on, demo the games, talk about the games themselves, and this was all Nintendo was doing. They live streamed the games as the developers were playing them, you know, and the crew was interviewing them. We were getting some brand new information, some, you know, brand new looks at games we've seen before, and of course some new looks at games we've never seen before. And here the developers were, you know, introducing it to us and talking to us. So they extended their E3 presence straight up until the end. Past the presentation, they were talking about the game, showing off all the games, so we could have a basic gist of what was going on. And then, to seal the deal, they had the Smash Brothers Invitational, which was a big tournament. I think it was 16 of the most best Smash Brothers players. You know, this was Nintendo's first time doing a Smash Brothers tournament, which was weird considering how they wanted to shut down the Melee one at EVO, which hasn't gone on for a few years. But here they were having their own tournament, and the Nokia Theater was packed with fans, and they were kicking and they were screaming. They were having a good time as they saw the battles unfold straight up until the end. Then when, you know, Mega Man had his final smash, you know, the entire stadium shook, probably caused like a 3 to 4 3-point magnitude earthquake around Los Angeles. That's just how loud and proud. They were having fun. And even when Reggie came on at the very end, you could see it on his face. He was excited, and he was happy to see that it was such a big success. And then they were live streaming it on Twitch, and people on Twitch were going crazy. They were having fun. So Nintendo, everything Nintendo did at this E3 was right. And not only was it right, but it helped them win. They were all about the games, and they've been getting steamrolled, battered, and beaten by the gaming press, by gamers, by developers for the past 2 years. Ever from before the Wii U came on market, during its launch, and after its launch straight up until now, they've just been getting these constant jeers and jerks by the crowd. It honestly seems like people just want Nintendo to just disappear. But Nintendo, they came, and they were like, we don't really care about you guys. We're doing what we want to do, and this is how it's going to be. And they did an awesome job at it. Not only did their fans appreciate it, but the rest of the gaming world did. But it seems like when you go to sites like IGN and you read their reviews of E3, everyone's hush-hush, had Sony won, I bet you would have had articles praising to the high heavens about how Sony was so amazing and everything. But nobody wants to admit that Sony didn't do as good as they could have done or should have done. Everybody's just downplaying it, everybody's, it's okay. When Microsoft was talking about everything but games, everything that gamers did not want to hear, nobody had a problem with railing Microsoft. Nobody had a problem beating up on Microsoft. But the minute Sony turns around and does it, everyone's like, well, it really isn't that big of a deal. They still did a good job, and yeah. But now that Nintendo was when everybody's like, that Zelda trailer though. But honestly, the games that they showed were amazing. We saw some new IPs. Since Nintendo doesn't make new games apparently, we saw a new IP. We saw Splatoon. We got confirmation that Star Fox will be coming out next year. We got some new footage at Super Smash Brothers. We got some new footage on the Yoshi game that they showed off last year called Yoshi's Woolly World. We got our first look at the very first Kirby game that will be coming to Wii U, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. We got some new footage of Xenoblade Chronicles X. That's what it's called now, and it definitely looks really promising. We got new footage of Bayonetta 2. We got new footage of Sonic Boom. We got new footage of an announcement of Mario Party 10. We got... what else did we get? Oh my goodness, there was just so much stuff that they showed off. We got Mario Maker coming. We got the full version of Art Academy. That should be interesting. We got I'm trying to just remember everything that you said. Oh yes, Hyrule Warriors. We got a confirmation of when Hyrule Warriors will be coming out. We also got to see a lot of brand new footage from the game. And then Nintendo, it was probably their most interesting announcement, and they announced this earlier this year, but now we finally got our very first look at it, of what they'll be doing with the NFC technology that's found in the Wii U gamepad. They're amiibo figures, which will be, little figurines of Nintendo characters, similar to that of the Disney Infinity and Skylanders. Here now is the Nintendo figurines, and they will be able to transfer data, store data and transfer it between different games. They confirmed that Super Smash Brothers will be using it, as well as Mario Kart 8 will also be using it in the future. So, like I said, Nintendo had a lot of announcements. And what was so interesting compared to Sony and Microsoft is all of them were exclusives. Every game that they showed off, except for the original Bayonetta, every game they showed off was pure exclusive. There were very, very few multi-platform titles that are coming to Nintendo systems this year. And the ones that they brought to E3, outside of what Nintendo showed, the only other multi-platform game was probably, and the indie games was probably Just Dance 2015. Everything else was coming to PS4 and Xbox One and PC, and maybe PS3 and 360, but Wii U and 3DS, nowhere to be found. But everything that Nintendo showed off was exclusives, and they all look good. These are games that you are not going to see coming to Xbox One or PS4, no matter what happens? These are games that will be staying exclusive to the Wii U. And that's a good thing because that's what sells systems. You know, because when you have multi-platform games, then what's going to differentiate your version from the other 2 to 3 to 4 versions is what maybe exclusive content will be there. And since so many gamers care about graphics, about which one has the better graphics and stuff like that. But for Nintendo, you know, these are exclusives. You know, these are games that you're going to have to buy a Wii U for if you really, really want to play them. And that's what sells consoles. You know, multi-platform games, they work in favor of Sony and Microsoft, but for Nintendo, it has always been about the exclusives, and that's all they showed off, and it was amazing. I think the only problem that I found with Nintendo's overall event was 2015. That dreadful number was around the entire E3 convention, because there were so many games that were shown off for PS4 and Xbox One as well, which are also coming out in 2015. But for Nintendo, out of all the games that they showed off, about somewhere between 50 to about 60% of them are coming out next year, which was, you know, which is a problem. But for the most part, you know, this year is still going to be a pretty active year for the system. Maybe they have a few more surprises that we don't know about yet. But honestly, you know, I think that they did a really good job. They really deserve to be called, you know, the king of E3 this year. They brought a plethora of games. They presented it in a fantastic way. They gave us, the majority of gamers who aren't able to attend E3, a chance to feel like we were there by doing the Nintendo Treehouse live stream throughout the entire convention, straight up until the end. You know, they brought the games to the gamers. They showed the games off. These weren't just gameplay trailers. These were actual gameplay streams, you know, 30 to 40 minute gameplay streams showing off just complete content as well as developer commentary. So you got to, you know little tidbits about the game as well. And then the Smash Brothers tournament, that was well done too. And then they also brought the game, you know, Smash Brothers to the public through Best Buy in the States, which was also really neat. So in the end, I honestly think that they did a really great job. You know, I don't think, like I said, the only flaw that I can really say with their presentation was that about 50 to 60% of their games are coming out in 2015. But for this year, you know, they have a decent lineup, and I can only hope that things will get better from now on. You know, 3DS is doing quite fine. It's sold about, I think, over 40 million units worldwide, which is really good, especially when you look back at how it started off. You know, it's done really good for itself, but the main focus for Nintendo right now is Wii U, and that's what they showed off with this presentation. 3DS was talked about, but only minusculely. Like, the only real thing that they were showing off for 3DS was Professor Layton and Ace Attorney, Pokemon, and Super Smash Bros. For 3DS, but everything else was directed at Wii U. They know that they need to keep pushing Wii U, and that's exactly what they showed with this presentation. Their entire dedication for making sure that they get the system off the ground. And they've already done so with Mario Kart 8, and they look really, really serious about making sure that that momentum continues to build and grow. You know, right now the system is just under 7 million worldwide. You know, it's in second place between PS4 and Xbox One. And if Nintendo continues to play their cards right, if they continue to do like what they did at this year's E3, you know, to continue showing us great games and to release them in respectable times, not a year, 2 years later, no delays. I honestly think that the Wii U could very well, you know, continue to stay in second place, or maybe, just maybe, because history is a very much funny thing, as it does repeat itself. Wii U could very well overtake the PS4 and end up winning the generation in terms of sales. You know, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Remember, the Wii U is only a year and a half old, and the PS4 and the Xbox One are barely, they're not even a year old yet. So it is very early in the 8th generation, and it is very, very uncertain as to what exactly is going to happen to any of these consoles. But from now on, for what we've seen with, as it relates to this year and next year, all three of them are going to have a really awesome couple months ahead of them. But for Nintendo, it's going to be really fun, really interesting to see exactly what happens from here on out. But definitely, you know, they did an amazing job, and I give them a hand clap. They did a good job, and I can only hope to see that they will continue to do a good job. You know, when you have a beast cornered, it will fight back. It will fight back, and it will fight back hard. Alright guys, so I want to thank you for watching, and please go ahead, leave your comments down in the comment section. Let's talk about this, let's discuss this. And also, please, it would be so kind of you to leave a rating. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, well, I'd say give it a thumbs down, but just keep it to yourself, please. You know, it's cool. Alright, and if you want to stay in contact with me and all of my future uploads, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It is summer, so I have a lot of content planned for you guys, and this is the very first out of the myriad of videos I plan to do this summer, so I hope that you're going to be there and watch every single one. Alright guys, so once again, thanks for stopping by, and continue to have a great day, and for all you gamers out there, keep on gaming. Hasta la vista.